What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. So, if you have not already, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I always forget to say. I said it, so there it is. Monday and Tuesday are our topics. Wednesday is discussion. And then Thursdays will either be Ask a CSP or a throwback. This week will be a throwback. But if you have not already, please go back to last week where I interviewed Delisha Hodo. She is the assistant director of SANS Institute Academy. So please check that out. So that way you can hear about all the great initiatives SANS has, as well as you can have a ton of links that can take you to some really good training. So if you are a person of color, you are a person trying to transition into cybersecurity, you are a veteran, you are a woman, they have different tracks for everybody. So please tune in for that. Without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. This article comes from cbsnews.com, and the title of it is MGM Resorts computers back up after being down 10 days due to casino cyber attacks. And we actually hit on this recently, right? We were talking about this, about how MGM got hit. I believe Caesars was the other one, right? That actually paid the ransom, but this kind of plays into it, right? So like it took 10 days for them to somewhat recover, right? So MGM Resorts International, right? They're the ones that got hit. And so what we have here is after 10 days, they say they're up, but they're only sort of up, right? So like, as we know, every technology rules everything now, right? So it's one of those things where, the ease of things that we're used to doing aren't necessarily working for them so much now, right? So like if you need to set a room reservation, you can usually do that online. No, that's not exactly up and running like it used to be, right? So you have to call them to make a reservation. So they kind of pushed it back some, right? Like we went back into the dark ages now, right? Like that's not how we do things now. I want to do it from my phone, my computer, you know what I mean? But like I said, they're somewhat recovered, right? But this is this is one of those things where they've lost a lot of money. Ryan, what was the number again you said they had lost during this time frame?
So the one of the articles that I read said they've lost $52 million.
$52 million over a 10-day period, right? Just being down and not being able to function as they normally would, right? So this is where this is kind of crazy, because Caesars, they're reported to have paid $15 million of a $30 million ransom, right? But from Scattered Spider for their data, and they seem to be up and running just fine. Like there's no problems with what's going on with them. So they paid it and everything's fine. Cost them $15 million instead of that big chunk of cheddar, that MGM had to give up. But so they're somewhat back up and running, right? So the company, there's a professor and director of the cybersecurity program at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He quoted estimates that the computer shutdown cost the company up to $8 million per day. So if you do the quick math, $8 million a day over 10 days, you're back up after 10 days. Let's call it, $80 million is what his guess is at, right? But their annual revenues are 14 billion, right? So this is what people are out there putting their money into, is gambling, right? I don't understand the love for it, but it happens, right? But they're saying, yeah, everything's somewhat back to normal. You know what I mean? Like, because they lost access to everything, right? So I don't know how many of you out there are like Marriott members or like Hilton members, where you can do like your keys to your rooms on your phone, because like hard keys are just not a thing in this day and age, right? Like where they give you a key, or the cards, you know what I mean, not working. Like they even have it to where you can do the key from your phone, you know what I mean? Not to say it always works well when everything is 100% anyway, but all those things that you get used to, no longer a thing. Well, they're not saying no longer a thing. It wasn't a thing for that 10-day period, right? And even now, they may still be experiencing some issues with it, right? So, but MGM has properties. This is MGM International, right? They have properties everywhere: Massachusetts, Michigan, Maryland. I think they said New York had a property, Ohio had a property. So this is one of those things where they had a lot of places affected by this. So This is why cybersecurity is such a big thing, right? So like casinos, they are not in it to losing money, right? This is not what they do. They're in it to make money. Any game you play there, they're always they're always on the positive side of it. I think I read a stat before where the house will win 52% of the time, right, or something like that. Like it's unrelated to this, but when it comes to casinos, so them losing this much money, tens of millions of dollars, is unacceptable to them. So the hope is that they'll have better training because to remind you what happened with this one, this was a social engineering attack that brought this on, right? This wasn't like they weren't securing their systems like they should have. It was social engineering, which is a very popular way to do things, right? We mentioned this before that if you just look confident, Kevin Mitnick, who recently passed, if you just look confident, look like you're supposed to be somewhere, you have some type of uniform on, nobody really stops you, right? So for this one, it was a matter of a conversation that took maybe 10 minutes, for them to get in there and pretend they were someone they weren't, and then just go from there, right? Like it's brought it out from there. But good for the gamblers. They're back up and running again. You know what I mean? But it cost them a pretty penny. Estimates from 52 million, you said, Ryan, to 80 million.
Right.
Yeah,
Somewhere in that
yeah,
wide spectrum
in that range.
of millions of dollars.
I wouldn't worry until I lost 100 million, but that's just me. But Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Like I'm not big into gambling either. I buy a scratch off from time to time, right? I just got a Monopoly one. Put in five, got out 10. I'm winning. I'm beating the house. Um, I get it though for all the other resort stuff. Like they have multiple resorts and hotels and things of that nature. So people don't just go there just to gamble, right? So I can see how those tens of millions will rack up pretty fast for MGM and all of their properties. So that is definitely unfortunate. And then during the weekend, I shared a posting with you and Levon where they were paying $100 an hour for people who knew Red Hat very well, right? So they're looking for 10-hour days, 7 days a week to get them back up and running. So obviously, they're still having some issues. I think there was a third article that I shared where it's like, yeah, they say they're up and running, but then when you try to book a reservation, there's a phone number associated with it. Like you go to the website, I want to book a room, say, please call the front desk, basically. So they're not 100%. When they say they're up and running, they're saying basically that you can gamble and the building's not on fire. And it'll take days to finally get right. I think the worst part of the situation is that Caesar's paid, right? Caesar's gambled differently. They're like, how much are we willing to go through in order to get back up and running? So they paid 15 million of a $30 million ransom. At least that's what's being reported, because they had to disclose some of this information because they are a financial institution to a certain extent. So they had to tell the government like, hey, we were breached. Unfortunately, I think it was their rewards members. Information could be compromised. So phone numbers, addresses, what was it? Driver licenses, things of that nature, could be up for grabs and out there. So it's unfortunate they paid. I get it. Like they want to be up back and running very quickly. They didn't want to necessarily impact their customers too much. But now you fed a stray cat. So guess what? Now everybody's in trouble, right? Like now they know they can get 15 million for however much work they did, right? Like I don't believe they put in $15 million worth of effort to compromise these systems, but they just got a big payout. So yeah, MGM didn't pay, but now it's like, well, let's attack the next casino or the next casino, right? And see what goes from there and see if we can bleed this dry. So it's definitely unfortunate that their competition, I guess, or partner or whatever you want to say, competitive. There you go. Uh, paid the ransom. So we will see what the fallout is in the future. Like right, going to the holidays and next year, let's see how many more of these mega casinos slash resorts are attacked because money's up for grabs.
So what's crazy about this is like I can remember when Hurricane Katrina came through Mississippi. They were talking about the money they were losing at those casinos, and they're not as popular. It's not Vegas, it's Mississippi, right? But there's still casinos there. Like they were not. There was no casino that was losing an estimated $8 million a day. And like as I think on this, I'm like, why the drastic difference? Because I want to say the number that was reported was like 500,000 or a million a day or something like that.
Yeah.
in Mississippi. But I'm thinking about it. I'm like, Vegas is the spot for gambling, and they got shows. They got all this
Yeah,
stuff going on to where they're losing more with you not paying in. Like they still got to pay out those performers and do all that stuff. You know what I mean?
right.
But 8 million versus like 500,000 or a million a day, like that's a big chunk.
Yeah, I used to go to the Beau Rivage. You just reminded me. So the Beau Rivage was a boat, right?
I think that was the one that was the boat. Was I don't know
Yeah,
if
it was a
it
boat.
yeah.
Like Katrina washed it on the shore and destroyed it. So when I went back for some training because we're our tech school, so technical training, Air Force for cyber guys and IT and all that other good stuff. Is in Keesler, Mississippi, so Biloxi, Mississippi, or Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. There you go. Um, the Beau Rivage was on the water, and when I came back, they had built a building across the street, so the boat was brand new because it was destroyed by the hurricane. So crazy stuff. Yep. Hard Rock Casino, Imperial. What was it called? Imperial Palace was one of them that got
I
jacked up
don't
pretty bad.
I don't remember all of them. I remember we ate at the buffet at the Grand because
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah, it was the
we
buffet because I didn't have any money. I was in test
yeah.
school, so I was broke. But I would go to the buffets all the time.
It was when I was cross training. Like I was better off than if I would have just been a student there. But even then,
Gotcha.
like, I'm not a gambler, right? Like they were like, "Hey, they their buffet was rated the best. Like let's go try it out." I was like, "I'm down."
Right, right. And the extra wide chairs. I always noticed that casino buffets, like the seating arrangements is different. Like they're prepared people to sit there and get it in. Crab and cracks or cracking crabs. There you go. And things of that nature. Um, but yeah, crazy stuff. Like I'm glad that they are becoming more functional. I'm glad they didn't pay. So good on MGM. Like yeah, they are losing a ton of money, but I mean at the end of the day, like you said, the house always wins. They'll collect that money back fairly soon. If anything, just put your most aggressive what do they call dealers on the table, right? Win that money back in a weekend.
If it happens to them again, though, I'm curious if they'll regret it. I'm curious if they'll just go the Caesars route. You know what I mean?
And
Knowing
just pay out. Yeah.
loss. Yeah,
I don't like at some point it's not gonna be possible to pay. So I mean, like maybe Caesars was ahead of the game, like to get it out the way, to pay the money and whatnot. But this is national spotlight, right? Like um these breaches at this scale is gonna get the government moving a little bit faster on legislation to make it impossible for companies to pay. Um I'm not sure if I shared the article with you or somebody else, but it came down to last time it came when it was brought up as a bill, it came down to I think it was Department of Justice or it could be another entity saying like we have to give we basically like we're stepping into uh uncharted waters by telling private business that they cannot pay ransom. Like we highly discourage it, but we can't necessarily tell them,
can't
no,
direct.
you cannot,
Yeah.
right? And that's kind of what turned that bill down was like, okay, we're getting too totalitarian, too authoritative. But if this keeps happening, I mean, at the end of the day, the government has to step in to protect its citizens. So if they keep getting compromised and they cannot protect themselves, and again, like this one with social engineering, in the article it says like if somebody really wants to get the keys to the kingdom and they're persistent enough, they will. It's just a matter of can you basically uh, defend yourself from the siege for long enough for someone to step in and have your back. Like you're waiting for the second wave, you're waiting for the cavalry to show up as these barbarians try to storm the gate, so to speak. So at the end of the day, it's going to happen. How do you recover from it? How quickly do you pivot back to being normal operation? How much data can you save from being compromised? Those all things could come into question. Like the are are you are you impenetrable is not a thing anymore. You are. Like at some point somebody's going to get in. So not to say MGM did nothing wrong because like obviously there needs to be a little bit more training and things of that nature to stop the easiest route through the gate being social engineering from happening again. But at the end of the day, it's going to happen. So does the government have to step in to make guardrails to say you cannot pay ransoms? It's a different question. So I think the jury's still out on that. But if this keeps happening
So
sooner or
so my
later,
So my last point, I know we're running short on time, but
Mhm.
I'm curious if you had cyber insurance, if that would pay for the 15 million, right? Because technically it was
Right.
an attack that was done by social engineering, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what the fallout is. But definitely hit us up at all the websites that go by our name. You can hit me up personally. I'm at Security Guy.